On this episode of the Youth Ministry Sherpas Coast to Coast, Brock caught some kids making out backstage at youth group, which brought back some traumatic memories from my past. More importantly, we talk about how to keep spiritually fresh when the busy season hits, which authors have informed and influenced our spiritual journeys, and we talk about the always complicated relationship between the youth pastor and the senior pastor. All this plus Shannon's go-to question to put the kibosh on high school relationships. It's Youth Ministry with the windows down. We're glad you're with us, so let's get started. Welcome back to episode 6 of the Youth Ministry Sherpas Coast to Coast podcast. My name is Steve Anderson, and I'm joined by my fantastic co-host, Shannon Dunn. Hi, Shannon.
Hello, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. And Brock Morgan. Hey, Brock.
Hey, it's so good to see you too.
It's good to be together. This is Youth Ministry with the windows down. We are proud members of the DYM Podcast Network, bringing you episode 6. So, Shannon, you said you didn't get a lot of sleep last night.
I mean, I got a 6-month-old. I was up at like 12:30, 2 a.m., 3:15. I think I slept till 5 after that, and then till 7. But yeah, no, sleep's rare.
I can't relate to the mother lack of sleep, but was there any preparation in your years of student ministry, like middle school retreat, of being awakened 7 times a night? Did that help at all?
Look, I will say this. Sleep, to me, camp sleep is way worse than newborn sleep. I know that sounds crazy, but like, at least my body also isn't physically tired and I'm not sleeping in an uncomfortable mattress, right?
Good point. Good point.
Totally.
Good point.
It's way worse than me with my prostate issues, getting up 3 times in the night to pee.
Okay, old man.
Wow. Well, old man, how was your weekend? What's going on at your church?
Oh, great week. I took my wife out on a date at this great restaurant in Orange County, and then we went to see a play, and it was just a fun, awesome night. And then we went Wednesday night youth group, and guess what? Guess what? All right, I'll tell you. Forget the guessing. I found out that 2 of our kids, 7th graders, met backstage and were purpling. They were smooching. Whoa. Have you guys ever walked in on any kids kissing? Has this been a thing?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
7th graders.
Awkward.
Oh, I found some 6th graders playing spin the bottle at camp one time with 8th graders. So it was like 8th grade girls and 6th grade boys. I was like,
oh no way.
What?
Wow.
What?
I mean, I almost high-fived them, but that would have been weird. So
the boys.
Good for those 6th grade boys.
The boys.
8th grade girls, what are you thinking?
Wow.
I know, right?
Wow.
Oh
one
my gosh.
time we were on a mission trip, and one of my youth leaders came to me and he said, "Hey, I just found 2 kids outside making out," and then I found out it was my son. So,
dude,
that's so good.
We one time rented a double-decker bus to get to camp. It really was cool. And I'm downstairs. A kid comes down and goes, "Hey, there's 2 kids upstairs making out." Now, these double-decker buses hold like maybe 100 people.
Wow.
It's so I go up there, and all these kids are around this couple, and they're all watching them make out.
What?
And I walk up, I'm like, "Guys," and they look at me. Oh my gosh, the shock and horror of me walking. But dude, you guys are doing this on the bus in front of everyone. Mostly middle school kids are around you. They were high school kids, staring and watching the 2 of you. It was quite a scene. But oh my gosh, that's the worst one I ever walked into.
Wow, that's terrible.
So how do you handle it when you walk in on that, Brock?
I tend to make them as uncomfortable as I possibly can in a fun way.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe later have a, not in the moment, but later have like a heart to heart. But I want to know what do you guys do? Because I'm in the middle of this right now.
Yeah. I mean, you have to figure out what that heart to heart looks like. But in the moment, my go-to, I had some kids at camp who were getting real close at the dance party, and then they like snuck off down to the campfire pit. So my go-to is to be like, interrupt, to be like, knock it off, and then I'll like kind of quietly but loud enough ask the guy if he took his diarrhea medicine, just to like super embarrass him. Hey, did you remember to go to the nurse and take your medicine for diarrhea? Just to like take it to the next level of embarrassment.
Immediately, she is not into him.
I'm like, I just shut that down for the rest of the week.
I like it. That is a good kind of bag of trick moment right there. What do you do, Steve? What's your go-to? What did you do when you walked up and you found out it was your son? This is good stuff. This is juicy stuff right here.
Well, I let my youth leader handle it. His name was Ray. Ray was very direct.
You delegated.
I delegated that one. And then later I like was asking my son about it because they never really dated. So there's a lot of flirtation going on. And, what are you going to do? He's a chip off the old block.
Okay. All right. So how about this? When you were a kid, did any youth leader walk in on you or teacher or whatever? Is this a thing? Obviously, Steve has some history with this.
Well, I wasn't really a youth group kid, but I did have my parents. Well, yes, band trip, high school, parental chaperones happened to be my own mother and father, and they walked in on me with a young lady. So that was probably the most embarrassing moment of my life, and I absolutely felt so bad for my mom.
Oh my gosh. So the sins do repeat with each generation. Oh my gosh. That's amazing. What did your mom do, Steve? What did she do when she walked in on you?
She was so upset. I don't even want to. She was so upset. Yeah. Because her image of me was forever wrecked, Brock. She
Oh man.
Well,
never saw me the same again.
So then you probably didn't want to repeat that pain for your son because you had like lived it. So you were like, I'm going to stay out of this and not shame him or make him feel that way.
Yeah. I mean,
Oh, that's so funny.
Awkward, right?
Oh.
So yeah.
These are awkward moments, Shannon. Whether it's your mom or mom is worse, but anytime you walk in on a couple making out, dude, it is all kinds of awkward.
Yeah.
What do the kids these days call making out? Is there like a new term? We just making out.
That's old school. That's right old. There.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't
like.
I'm confused by it because making out when I was growing up was mostly that was like kissing. It wasn't like more than that. But I get the feeling that it's broader now. That term is it encompasses more than smooching.
I'm gonna text some teenagers and find out what the deets on
maybe that's what we should do. If you're a youth worker, text some kids, put it in the comments. What are they calling it these days?
Yeah.
That will be some interesting comments.
For sure.
Oh.
Well, I think that's the end of this segment, my friends. We don't want to go any further.
You've already brought up all my childhood trauma that I
oh my gosh, serious trauma
induced on my mother. Anyway, so let's go to our first segment of the day. We're calling this Stop the World, I Want to Get Off. So as we go into this the fall season of student ministry, and we are all ramped up, we're hyped, things are busy. We're going all in for the fall because that's what we do as youth pastors. there's a tendency for me, and I would like to know if it's for you as well, to really invest and think and spend all of our time doing, to be thinking about work, details, message prep, all of that stuff. And it's really easy in the midst of that to kind of lose ourselves and stop spending time with God, stop doing the things that keep us spiritually, emotionally, relationally healthy. So stop the world. I want to get off. How is it for you guys as you go into the busy season? Are there things that you incorporate into your life or intentional steps you take to stay close to God and operate from a place of overflow and not just doing all the time?
I want to hear from Shannon.
Well, I think this is a great question because I definitely think soul care and just taking care of ourselves is probably one of the most important things to not burn out, right? And to not to be able to stay in youth ministry. So I have my rhythms change season to season, but I have a few things. I have a spiritual director that I meet with every month. And I've been doing that for, I think, 2 years, and that's been really good for me. Someone else to hold space for me, because sometimes my decision to hold space for myself, I'm not super disciplined at. It's harder for me. So having someone else hold space for me helps create a good discipline for myself. And then I also do they're called digital silent retreats, and I have not done them in 6 months because they're very early in the morning and I'm not getting a lot of sleep. But I did them for 2 years before that, and I'm going to pick them back up this month, actually. But basically it's a hour and a half of silence, but you meet on Zoom with like 8 other people, and you start the silent retreat that way. And then you go do your hour and a half of silence. You have a guide you work through, and then I come back and the 8 of us share together on how that experience was for us. And so those 2 things have been like newer in my life, sort of soul care routines that I do.
Shannon, I love that. Tell me more. I want to know more about this hour and a half thing, because this could be amazing if us as listeners and just as youth workers were really intentional about this.
Yeah.
So what time is it at? You get up at what time and you check into the Zoom meeting? Give me the details.
It's different for wherever you live, but it's actually a free thing that my spiritual director provides. Her name's Laura Murray, and so plug for her, but it's called Digital Silent Retreats. And so she's in Texas, so they start at like 9 in Texas, but they start at 7 a.m. here. That doesn't sound outrageously early, but it is. It's on a Saturday morning when I think most people are sleeping in, and so
so that's a commitment.
Why it's hard, but people from all over the world do them. So there's like a woman in South Africa. I've found community. It's crazy. I've found community through these Zoom silent retreats that we do. So then you turn off your computer, you turn everything off, and you work through a guide at your own pace for an hour and a half before you come back. It's awesome. I love it.
Dude, this is amazing. I love that. That's so helpful, because you're especially if you are like me, you have lofty goals that are really hard to live up to. I always my New Year's resolutions are always so ridiculous that by day 4 I'm like out. But this offers that part of like you're accountable, you're in relationship.
Yep.
You have someone guiding you. Dude, I love this. That is so good.
Yeah, I don't do well at creating discipline for myself. So I have a little devotional I try to open in the mornings and some other little things, but I don't do well like creating my own discipline. So accountability and like monthly rhythms, those things are really helpful for me to not feel like I failed if I don't do something every single day.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean,
especially
for me,
with little kids at home. Yeah.
Oh, with little kids at home, that's tough. And I can see that 7 to 8:30 would be tough also. Just that time frame. But it's a Saturday, so husband can do his husbandly duties maybe. But for me, it is about rhythm. So I'm an early riser, whether I want to be or like I don't need to set the alarm clock. I'm up at 6, whether I want to be or not. And the house is quiet. My wife and my daughter are sleep-in late girls. And so I really have the morning to journal, to read some scripture, and then I go for prayer walks at night. But I'm in a season right now, and I don't know how you guys are feeling, where I am. It's too early in the fall. It's not really even the fall yet, and I'm already feeling worn out and exhausted. And so I worked really hard on Wednesday all day getting ready for our kickoff. This was like a week ago. And my legs from doing all this heavy lifting were so sore I could hardly walk. And so it kind of was like reminding me of my soul. Like I just felt drained, tired, weary. And so what I decided to do was to, instead of lay around, I went for a half-day hike. So I do the opposite of
good.
what my body is telling me. And it woke me up. It like the soreness went away. And I was around nature and I felt my soul come to life. And for me, it's about being super intentional about getting outside, surrounded by God's amazing artwork, and just breathing in. And if I do that, and then if I do what Shannon's doing, where I'm having someone regularly speaking into my life, I feel like that if you do those things, that is going to lead you to some long-term health, and you'll have a ministry that is you won't burn out if you're doing those things. At least hopefully you won't burn out. Less likely. So what do you do, Steve?
I love the idea, Brock, of pushing through when you're tired. Even this morning, I failed at this. I went to bed kind of late last night. I've had a long week, so I'm tired. It's Friday. We're recording this, and I wanted to go to the gym this morning, and I should have gone to the gym this morning. I would feel better if I had. So, yeah, I didn't because I woke up tired. So I appreciate that. Push through that.
Yeah.
Thing that I brought into this year, by last Christmas-ish, I was pretty spiritually depleted. Been kind of a hard year in ministry, and some battles were fought here over some things that really took a toll on me. And so I knew that I needed some help. So I started the year with, my word for the year was refresh. And I intentionally read books in January meant to restore my soul, specifically a couple by John Eldridge. One's called Get Your Life Back, I think, something like that. And then something about, I forget what the second title is, but he has this this app that I've been using. It's called the Pause app. And within the Pause app, the idea of the Pause app is you set a time every day where you stop and you just pause and spend a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes with God, which I don't really use. But there's a part in the app where it's a 30-day experience, 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes at night, where he walks you through these just kind of ways to get closer to Jesus and restore your soul. And I've been doing that. I think this is my third time through it. I don't always get both parts done in a day, but try to start the day that way. It begins with a simple prayer. Lord, I give everything and everyone to you. And I try to like really release that to God.
Yeah.
And, when our minds are spinning with busyness, it's hard.
Yeah.
But that's been helpful, at least to come back to that repeatedly. And then there's different parts of that experience, which I won't go into, but I found that really helpful. And I don't know that that's everything, because you still need the discipline to do it. And I love the fact that Shannon has accountability in that with that spiritual director. I'd love to hear more about that. So rhythm, accountability, grace for yourself when you're not doing it every day. All those things it maybe depends on temperament for us. Those are all really good, guys. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that you can't let yourself get caught up in the busyness of life, of the demands of ministry, meetings, expectations, the anxiety that all of that brings. And just kind of like, I don't know if you've ever been at the point where you're like, if I can just get to Thanksgiving, if I can just make it. And when you get into, and then it's like, if I can just make it to the new year, if I can just get through the next 6 weeks, when you are living that way, you are not ministering out of overflow. You're ministering out of depletion. And that is not just in your ministry, that's at home. Like you are parenting out of depletion. You are loving your spouse not nearly as well because you're on empty. You're running on empty. And so I love how Genesis, it says the evening and the morning were the first day. It's this opposite way of thinking where my day begins with rest, with sleep. And I think we have to think that way, and it requires discipline. You must be disciplined to rest.
The analogy for me is when we go to fill up our car, we fill up our car, right? You don't stop at the gas station and put in 1 gallon and then run that. Well, maybe you do if you're running low on cash, right? I forgot my wallet. What change do I have in the dashboard? But you know what I'm saying? In general, we fill up so that we can go for a while without stopping again. And I think it's really easy in ministry to take the opposite approach. Like I just got, like you said, Brock, just got to get through today, get through this week. And so we're always just at that edge where we're like one step, one trouble, one disaster from losing it. And Dude. I just don't think we can operate that well.
And we do that with our soul. Because like I have gone to the gas station and been like, I don't have time. I'm just gonna put in $2. And we do that with our soul.
We do.
It's no way to live.
Yeah.
Like the extra 2 minutes it would take to put in the other 7 gallons are really gonna break your schedule for the day.
But I've totally done that.
I have too. It's ridiculous.
And that's when you know you are living without margin. And or for me, it's always this made up, like there's no, like, right? It's not real that I have no margin. It's that I'm like, my soul is feeling like I have no margin. And so I really adopted over the summer this phrase, don't tell my boss, but I really like in my mind is work can wait. And that was because I had a baby and I was like, I don't want to miss any moments with this baby because I'm frazzled about what I need to get done with work. Like work can wait till he goes down for a nap. It'll be okay. And I really had to mentally train myself, right? Because we can train ourselves in the opposite. Like, oh, this email, answering it in the next 5 minutes is more important. No, it's not. You're going to be okay.
Be a good friend to yourself.
Yeah.
Like counsel yourself well, like you would someone you love. Like, dude, it's all right. Work can wait. We have to say that to ourselves. That's so good, Shannon.
Yeah. We're good at what we do. And so we think that being good at what we do requires us to always have everything prepped, perfect. And that's not the essence of ministry.
Yeah.
We're better at what we do when our souls are good. And the details may or may not have fallen in line.
Yes. Maybe that's what we should do, like an assignment. Today, go for a walk, breathe, pause, pray. Like, Google something about how to become a part of a group like Shannon's. What are these things called, Shannon?
Digital silent retreat.
Yeah, Google that. Like, let's get on this. I want to join your group, except Saturday mornings. That sucks. I don't like that idea.
It's once a month.
Okay, once a month. I can do that.
I'm going to take our advice to heart when we're done recording today. I'm going next door. There's a golf course across the street. And
there you go.
gonna hit golf balls with a friend for an hour, so that'll be good for my
It's good.
soul.
That
I don't
is
think I'll
good
pray.
for your
I
soul.
might pray. I might pray for my golf game. I don't think I'm going to pray for my soul. All right, we're going to move on to our next segment. As always, as we continue to learn more and get to know more about each other, it's time for Get to Know Your Sherpa.
Yay!
Let's do it.
And today I'm bringing the question, and it kind of fits with what we just talked about. So I would love to know, each of you, who are the major authors that have influenced your life as a follower of Jesus?
Mhm.
Oh, so good. I love this question.
Go ahead,
As a-
Brock.
Okay. Shannon, do you have something? Do you want to?
No, I was like, as a follower of Jesus or as a youth pastor, because those are different questions. So,
Yeah, I think as a follower of Jesus more than as
Okay.
a youth pastor. Yeah.
I was good. If you were going to say as a youth pastor, I know of an author who has written some pretty decent books that you could maybe mention. Just
little self plug there. Cha-ching,
is it
Brock
is
Morgan.
it Brock Morgan?
I'm just, I haven't heard of him. I'm not sure. But
Brock Morgan or Dallas Willard. I mean, they're similar.
See, you brought up
but
one of my favorites,
Yeah.
Dallas Willard.
Go ahead.
Let me
Go ahead,
give you
Brock.
my authors.
Yeah.
Brennan Manning. He captured my heart early in ministry, and I still
Yeah.
go to him. Dallas Willard has been a huge, massive impact. Which leads me to John Ortberg, who was kind of a disciple of Willard. My favorite all-time book is probably Surprised by Hope by N.T. Wright. I'm a huge N.T. Wright guy. I read everything that he writes. And a major influence of his is a guy by the name of C.S. Lewis, who I absolutely love. Those are a few names and some books that dude, I love. Yep.
Solid choices. How about you, Shannon?
You go next, Steve, because I need some recall triggered. So you go.
Okay. I'm going to agree with you, Brock. I'm going to go with start with Dallas Willard. When I was in seminary, I read The Divine Conspiracy.
Oh, yes.
Which was it was really a life-changing book for me at that time. Just gave me a whole different perspective on the kingdom of God that has continued to influence me to this day. So I definitely put him at the top or near the top of the list. Some other ones, I have always enjoyed the work of John Eldredge. Again, it speaks to my heart and soul care. So I read everything that he writes. I really like John Mark Comer, as he's been writing a lot about the way of Jesus and things like that. I found him to be very influential as well. Of course, C.S. Lewis. But ultimately, I have one at the top of the heap, and it's the one that I go to this person and read his work when I need reminding what being a pastor is all about. And that's Eugene Peterson. I've read a lot of his books, some of them multiple times. There's a few that I read every few years just to remind me that it isn't about the work. It isn't about any kind of efficacy or success. It's about the heart of the pastor. And that's what he writes to. So yeah, I consider him as my spiritual mentor and would highly recommend following that trail to read his work.
Oh, he's so good. Have you seen that documentary where Bono goes and sits with him? Dude, come on. When I saw you, so
humble, so wise.
Oh, he's so humble. And I think all these authors we've mentioned have this humility that is so it draws you in. They're so brilliant, but they also are so humble and lovers of Jesus, and you just sense it.
I probably shouldn't even say this because it'll probably make somebody mad, but I've had this blog in the back of my mind that has never made it to paper. But I consider the contrast between Eugene Peterson as he was aging and John MacArthur as he's aging, and just how how they would speak to people and speak about issues, and just thinking, I want to be Eugene Peterson when I'm an old guy. I don't want to be crotchety old guy. I want to be humble, kind, sweet old guy.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Warmly truthful.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
I just sent 87 listeners off.
Dude, well, I just thought of one other book that people should pick up. It's Tim Keller's last book.
Mm-hmm.
It's called oh crap. It's either called Unforgiveness or Forgiveness. Anyway, I'm in the middle of it. What is it?
It's about forgiveness.
It's about forgiveness. I think it's called Unforgiveness. It is so for this time. I remember when I saw this was his last book, and I was like, why would he write a book about there's so many books, but it's not what you think. It's so much deeper and profound and for this moment. Anyway, those these are some good books. Shannon, please tell us.
So here's the deal, guys. I did seminary for 10 years. 10 years while also raising children and working full time. So yes, I read plenty of books in that time, but not all of them / most of them were for my enjoyment. Okay? And that is sort of the last 10 years of my life. But I really do love N.T. Wright. Like I was looking over at my bookshelf. I was looking over at my bookshelf to sort of get like I was like, oh, I have the all N.T. Wright commentary over there because he's a favorite. I remember really being inspired pre-seminary days by some Henry Nouwen stuff.
Yes.
And then I'm basically drawing you all said I don't have anything new to add is what I'm saying.
Good.
Basically.
These are good.
You said the things.
Those are good.
But yeah, I really had to sort of take a break from reading that kind of book.
Yeah.
Totally.
During
Understandable.
and after seminary a bit. But I mean, if you want to, I'll say this for youth ministry. I still go back and read some of Chap Clark's stuff once in a while. That just gets me that ignites my soul in a way that I feel connected to the Spirit, actually. So that's one of my go-tos.
Let me throw one more out. Like we got to have a female author that hasn't been mentioned. And there's some great female authors, but Anne Lamott, her book, really anything she writes, but her classic one is Traveling Mercies. And she'll push you. But she's just so Jesus-y. And then I would throw in maybe like Phyllis Tickle. She is unbelievable. And then Kenda Creasy Dean is always she's as a youth worker, you gotta know who Kenda Creasy Dean is.
You know what I did just read for enjoyment that falls into this is I read Beth Moore's memoir, and I had actually not done any Beth Moore Bible studies or anything really before that. I mean, I'd had bits and pieces of it, but I really enjoyed her memoir. It was very fascinating and really uplifting.
She's so good.
Yeah, it was really good.
I mean, come on. And the hate that is, speaking of John MacArthur, gone her way. Oh my gosh, please talk about
that. I mean, let's be real. That's why I read it. I was like, oh, she's under fire. Let's check this out. And it was so good. It was so good. She's
so, again, humble, Jesus-y, truth speaker, but kind.
So here's the application for listeners, because there's probably a lot of youth pastors, younger youth pastors, who are reading the latest flavor of the day. Go to some older stuff. Go to some wise people of the past century or older than that even. Read some deeper stuff. Spend some time with that. I think that's really important to deepen our faith, deepen our perspective beyond with how to do the latest thing, 10 points to do this, do that. Feed your soul. So
feed your soul.
There you go.
Right. As we go into our final segment today, we're calling this one, Who's the Boss? And let's talk a little bit about how we relate to our senior pastors. So it could be in churches of all sizes, all kinds of experiences. And it's always an interesting relationship, right? Sometimes it gets a bad rap. Youth pastors can talk of smack about our senior pastors. I've been in those conversations before. Senior pastors probably have the same conversations when they're together, right? Talking about their
they
youth pastors.
totally do.
So let's just talk through that a little bit from our own experience, what that looks like and how what our relationships are like with our senior pastors. So who wants to open up?
Shannon, you seem to have a really good relationship with your senior pastor. I would love to hear you talk about that.
I was gonna talk about my previous senior pastor for a second.
Yeah.
Also a good relationship there. But it was interesting because he was my pastor first. Like as a kid, he baptized me. Like growing up in the church, he was my pastor before he became my boss. I babysat his kids, before I got into ministry, all these things. And so that puts a twist on the relationship a little bit. But for me, luckily, it was like a good twist. And he had a thing where he would, with me and some of the other staff members, where he would tell you what hat he was wearing. Like, I'm wearing my boss hat now, or I'm wearing my pastor hat for you, or I'm wearing the parent of a kid in your youth ministry hat, it's sort of be able to define what the conversation was based off of, what part he was playing. And I thought that was really important for our relationship to know the difference about, where he was coming from when we had conversations. But I was lucky to have my pastor continue to be a good boss. And so I can, now that he's no longer the pastor here, I can continue to see him as my pastor that raised me versus like a boss that I didn't like to have, so.
No, that's super neat though. And I love that your working for him didn't ruin that previous important relationship in your life.
Yeah.
So that's a breath of fresh air, right? That it's the whole thing, like never go to work for the church you attend. Some people say, and I hate that way of thinking.
Yeah.
That people would think that way. I understand why, but that's so cool, Shannon. How is your relationship with your current boss been, and him transitioning in as your new boss? Was that hard? How have you managed that relationship?
Yeah. It's interesting because I'm on staff with my husband. So we both are on staff. And then our pastor and his wife are also on our staff. So there's two couples on our staff. But in some ways, I feel like that created this connection between like our pastor, like, I don't know, not that he doesn't have connection with other people, but for me and for my husband, that was sort of a bonding connection moment. And I think that's really important. I think you need to, for me, I have needed to have a friendship outside of just this boss relationship and see like, there needs to be a friendship there for me. And so that's been really important and been good that we've been able to sort of develop that. He will play with my kids, or like we'll do things outside of work, not often, but occasionally. And that's really valuable for the way that I begin to understand his leadership. So then as my boss, because I know him outside of work, I can start to understand why he thinks the way about things, or how he does things, or anticipate the way he's going to want something done and things like that. So for me, it's been a gradual 2-year learning to understand who he's going to be as a leader. And a lot of that has come through building a friendship outside of that too.
That's interesting. I bet that's not that common.
Probably not.
Yeah. I wonder.
I mean, I've also had experience at a church where the senior pastor didn't know my name or what department I worked in, and would be like, "Oh, hey, sweetie, how's it going?" And I'm like, "What? No, I work here. I'm important. What's going on?" So
I'm important enough for you to know my name.
Come on.
Yeah, that's tough. I have had good relationships with senior pastors and difficult relationships, hard, traumatic relationships with senior pastors. But my current senior, I am almost 20 years older than my senior pastor. And so I feel like we are friends. I feel like I, in some way, am play a kind of mentor role a little bit and just helping him think through things.
Mm-hmm.
He uses me
Mm-hmm.
as a soundboard a lot, which is
Mm-hmm.
great. And then I vision him. I think, and I did this in previous relationships with senior pastors who were older than me or whatever, is you have to lead up.
Mm-hmm.
You've been hired as the expert in youth culture and in youth ministry. That doesn't mean you're not humble, and you want to understand what a win for them is, but you have to lead up so they understand why you're doing what you're doing. And I also think one of the biggest things that I've done in cultivating a relationship with a senior pastor is actually caring for them, asking how they're doing, how you can pray for them, if there's anything you can do for them, and actually be a good friend to them. I have found that to be super beneficial. It's also good for me to love them well.
It's really good.
Yeah. I have a very unusual situation because I have been with the same senior pastor now for 23 years.
Yeah.
And he preceded me by 4. So he's the founding pastor. The church was started 27 years ago, and I came on in year 3 or 4 and have been here since then. So he's the only senior pastor I've worked for. I'm the only youth pastor the church has had, and that's 23 years. I don't think 23 years is certainly not a record, but 23 years with the same senior pastor and being the only 2 ever to hold those positions, that's got to be really unusual.
Yeah.
So I do get asked a lot, like, how do you get along with your senior pastor? And it's interesting because I think we're so different that there are times where the differences have produced some internal conflict for me. Not so much outward conflict, but internal conflict of, I don't think I would do it like that, or I wouldn't say it like that, or I would go a different direction. And I think at times, me being the opposite of him, it maybe has caused him to ask the same question. So I think the kind of the yin and the yang a little bit has maybe been good for the overall health of the church. Not that I'm like, there's other leaders speaking into that. It's not just me, but so yeah, leading up is a part of that, Brock. But we are friends outside of it. I would say this though. One of the major things that I think is really important for youth pastors with their senior pastor is the intentionality of your relationship, not only with him or her, but with their family. And he has 7 kids. I've had all of them in student ministry and had a pretty good relationship with them. And just, you got to be sensitive to that. Like, you got to be wise about that.
Yeah.
And do your best by them and realize that he's also coming at it as a parent as well as the senior pastor. So, and to kind of honor that, and I ask about his kids, and now that they're older and some of them are married and stuff. And so just to show that I really do care about his family, and I make that apparent to him.
Dude, that is such good advice,
yeah.
Steve. I've heard youth pastors say this silly things like, "No, I'm not going to give any family special treatment," and I'm like, "Are you insane?" Like,
yeah,
I want to make sure that staff members' kids are for sure being cared for, and I'm going to do my best because they are giving their lives to this church, and then also, I hate to say it, but it's important for you, for your job.
It is. It is.
So like, you got to make sure.
It breeds success in your ministry too, because if you're doing a good job by their kids, then you're going to be spoken well of, and the youth ministry is going to be championed. And that's happened. I feel like Guy is his name. Guy champions the student ministries publicly and speaks well of it and speaks well of me publicly. And I try to do the same because I think it's important, even if I'm disagreeing with something inside, to be speaking well publicly as a unified force. And it's only going to come back and bless the student ministry. there's been so many times where guys had my back on stuff. Even this past year was something that, like, man, maybe it didn't go as far as I wanted, but he gave me a lot, and I really appreciate that. And somehow we've coexisted 23 years.
No, that's so good.
I think you just said something so important, is just how we talk about our church, how we talk about a senior pastor. I mean, we have to be, it's not because we need to filter and be careful, but it's because we want to champion, we have to want to champion the place, right?
Yeah.
And so finding the space that is appropriate to share your struggles that are going on, you have to be so careful. I think that's part of like being with a spiritual director for me, or being with a counselor for some people. But you do not want to be the youth pastor that was known to create toxic or speak toxic things about your senior pastor or anyone or anything about your church, and then get let go and have that follow you. Like, you do not want that.
No, that will not pay dividends for you in any way. And it's offensive to God. So there's that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's
Good stuff, guys.
Not always easy. Sometimes easier said than done. I know there's a lot of student pastors who are in difficult situations and have leaders that they really either don't trust or can't support. And, you know, we would love to hear from you. If you have questions or need some advice, reach out. We'd love to hear from you and be able to respond to that. So as we go into our last session for today, last segment for today, question is, hey, what kept you going this week? Long pause,
I'll
which
jump in
means
there.
It wasn't a banner.
I'll jump in. Well, I have been really tired, and I told you a week ago I went for a half-day hike. I went and did it again yesterday, and I think that's actually what kept me going, because I have felt so tired and worn out, more tired than I should be going into the fall. And me getting outside has kept me going, sweating, working hard, moving. I'm listening to worship music as I'm hiking. I'm with my dog. And dude, it's that's what has kept me going.
Yeah. That's good. I had a previous volunteer. She graduated from college last year, so she's moved on. Text me and say, hey, can we FaceTime this week? And, you know, I think when someone says that, you're like, is it because they like gone through something hard? Like, is this going to be draining or life-giving? But with her, it's almost always life-giving. She literally just wanted to like check in on my family and like see how my kids are doing. And like, she just, and catch me up on things going on with her too. But it was so life-giving to know that she's moved and just still has a desire for us to be a part of each other's lives. And so that conversation, she kept saying, I'm so sorry, do you need to go? Like, you have stuff to do. And I'm like, no, like, this is what I want to be doing. Like, I want to be talking with you and catching up and asking each other how we can be praying for each other. So it was really good.
That's good. Mine's similar. I spent last weekend, we were socializing quite a bit. I think we were with 3 different sets of friends over the weekend. And those are some of our safe places and people that we love. And they're all involved with the church or former youth leaders or students or whatever. And we just have such great relationships. So to be able to spend time with people, and then specifically on the one day we went to a local vineyard with some friends, and one of the people working there is a former youth leader too. And so we just had awesome to see those people and just celebrate their families and life outside the church. So yeah, that was good.
So is wine what kept you going, or?
Well, wine always keeps me going.
Just kidding.
Sitting with my wife, having a glass of wine is a good thing.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So that's it for today's show. Episode 6 is in the books, and we will be back with another episode very soon, episode 7. Until then, we ask that you like us, follow us, share us, email us, and
smash that subscribe button.
If you have any advice, suggestions, encouragement, send us our way. Send it. If you have any advice, suggestions, or encouragement, or speech correction, send it our way at youthministrysherpas@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I hope you have an awesome day. I'm gonna go out and hit some golf balls. I think it's gonna be good for my soul.
Oh.
So yeah, it's been great being with you guys.
All right, you guys are the
Awesome.
best.
Yeah, you too.
Always
Goodbye.
fun.